This is a Renew Studios Network podcast. Faithful, uplifting, family-focused.
Mom, Dad, I humbly suggest you save some money and shop Amazon for back to school. It's for my growth, meaning my body's growing at an alarming rate. And clothes you buy me this year will be very small very soon. Plus, the clothes I love today will be out of style tomorrow. But at least your wallet doesn't have to be my fashion victim if you shop low prices for school at Amazon. Hopefully this is helpful. Amazon. Spend less, smile more. Mom and Dad, the school supplies you buy me this year will mostly end up in my mouth. Maybe shop low prices for school at Amazon so I don't eat up all your money. Just something to chew on. Amazon. Spend less, smile more.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Relationships and Reason. Oh, man, this has been such an incredible series of conversations that we've been having over the last few weeks. We've talked to incredible leaders in the community. We've talked to folks that are very intentional about their communication, their leadership development, and so forth. And we're getting to another good conversation today. We're talking about consistency and all that surrounds it.
Yes,
but before we go into that, again, we are Relationships and Reason, right? And we love to talk about these types of conversations, whether it's leadership, family development, and so forth. And then we want to do that with incredible people that are living this out. And we do this a lot from a faith lens as well. But you can find us on social, Relationships and Reason, also relationshipsandreason.com. And also, hey, if you are in the market for a good podcast to collaborate with and to partner, we're looking for good sponsors to come around and walk with us. So thank you again for tuning in to this episode, and let's get into it. Like, Hunt, talk to me. Like, what are we talking about with consistency?
Yeah, consistency is not the most. You said the term. It's not like the most.
It's not sexy.
It's not flashy. It's not something that you kind of. These are not the things that you post. Right. You post the results, but not the daily grind of doing the things that get you to the overnight quote unquote success. But consistency, I think, is like the secret ingredient behind lasting success. Yeah. In order for you to be successful at something, there are things that you have to do when the lights are off, right? When nobody's watching you, and when you have to even internally struggle to decide whether or not you want to do it, whether or not you're going to continue to do it, right. And when it's not joyful, right. but you still pushing forward to doing it. So consistency, the lasting ingredient, so the secret ingredient behind a story that goes on and on and on. We often wait for motivation to kind of strike us, right, in order to do something, but motivation fades away. You know, you get an idea and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be great, right? Or it's kind of like
Christmas time,
New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions, and within a couple weeks, those ideas,
like within a month or something like that. The stats are crazy.
You know, you're so excited about it. You're like, yeah, at the end of the year, I'm gonna do this, right. and this. I'm gonna, lose 15 pounds, and I've been meaning to learn Spanish for the last 10 years. Yes.
And every year around that time where I start to think about what I want to do this next year that's different, Spanish is on there, learning the guitar is on there, and then, start off strong, and then I'm not.
Yeah, you were like, he starts off really strong. He gets like super hype, and he's super like, his Duolingo app is open, and he gets this like Spanish radio and his little Spanish CD he listened to the same episode for the last 10 years. And I'm like, but the consistency, is it there? It just fades away.
We talked about this before. Consistency can look different, right?
For everybody.
Yeah, for everybody.
Sure. Unless the result doesn't show anything, and then you realize, like, okay, really, you're definitely not doing what you say. If I could just relate this to basketball, it's one of those things where, you know, people are often like, yeah, my kid is this and that, like loves basketball, you know, loves to do this. Or even the players are like, yeah, I'm practicing, I'm working out. And, you know, with basketball, it's just one of those things like you don't have to say anything. You know, the work will show for itself. Right. And the consistency is the work that show for itself. It's like, do you really get in the gym? You don't have to tell me. I would actually see it. So the consistency reveals itself over a period of time.
Yeah, that's really cool for stuff like basketball where you can see it and people can get motivated easier, right? Whenever you can see results like that, you know, you put in the work physically, you're going to kind of see that, or it should translate on the court somehow. But what about those things that you know you're putting in the work, but maybe no one will ever actually see it, right? Or you might not even know that it's working, but you know these are certain actions that you need to put in over time in order for actual change to happen in your life. Like, how do you deal with that? That's some of the stuff that we'll talk about today.
Yeah, but I don't really know if there's anything that when you put in the work that you don't see the result of.
For real?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
Like, what about actually, like, and I'm saying that you can put in the work, but you're not seeing it immediately, one, right?
Maybe
with basketball, right? You put in work, basketball over time, or even like off season, right? People talk about off season all the time. I was in the gym, right?
That's what they talk about, and then they show up, and you can tell.
Yeah, and you can tell,
right?
Course. Whether or not they actually been in the gym, right? But say something like you know, you're working on your marriage and your communication specifically when marriage is broad, but you're working on your communication, right? And you've been doing these things. You're not gonna necessarily be in a situation all the time where you are maybe having to prove that thing that you've been working on with your communication. No? Like, you might see it here and there, but nobody else is gonna like stop and just like, hold up, everybody, let's start clapping and just like, you know, round of applause because this dude has been growing.
Right? This dude has been working on this communication, and here it is exemplified. Yeah. No, I do think that if you are conscious of the fact that you are working on your communication, there are going to be moments when you are saying to yourself like, oh man, here's like a phrase that just kind of gets me, you know, like it just irritates me. And then now you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to let that phrase drive you to what it used to do, or if you're going to overcome it. So I think that is, if something that you're practicing, then you're going to be more aware of it. So I think the results will show whether we notice or you notice. Because you know how sometimes people will be like, you know, I used to be so impatient, but I can see that I'm not as impatient as I used to be, you know, 20 years ago or 5 years ago. I would have said this, or I would have done this, or acted this way. And you can be like, man, I've grown because I know myself, and I know I would have popped off at this situation, but I didn't because of the growth that you're trying to, you know, achieve. So I do think that it shows up. Eventually,
yeah. And you have to get to that place where you can like reflect and kind of really think about it and understand and give acknowledgement to that. But it can be challenging.
It absolutely can. I think that's why consistency is not the most like flashy thing. Because it's a thing that you're doing when nobody is watching, and it's a personal decision that to do whatever it is that you want to do. It's not motivation because somebody else is not telling you to do it, right? The consistency part of it, maybe it is that someone is like, hey, at the end of the year, if you do this, then you will achieve this. But ultimately, you have to be the one to stay consistent with that action, you know? And there won't be somebody motivating you every single day for a whole entire year to do a project or to get the whatever it is that you want to grow in, or you want to read 5 books or 15 books at the end of the year, right? The consistency part is I'm going to read for 20 minutes a day.
I guess what I'm thinking about while you're saying that, like, because I'm listening, and it sounds like, Is there consistency, or maybe even going back, like the motivation in order to be consistent? can that be sustained from, externally? Somebody else, right? Do you have a boss or something, or do you have some type of award or reward that's at the end of the line? If you do this specifically, can that actually motivate you to be consistent? I think some instances there can be, right? You think about work and incentives and, sales goals, or you think about even weight loss or something along those lines. A lot of times it's socially the reason why people are going after those things. And so I feel like there is some type of there's something there, right? I would not say like it always has to come from just like internally, be pushed, because it's one of the reasons why I encourage people, like, if you have a goal, right, tell people about it. Or if you have a idea that you're building on or something like that, tell people about it, because a lot of times when you start to speak that out loud, no matter how strong your internal motivation is, when you start to actually speak that to other people, you bring in a sense of accountability. And for some people, accountability might be stronger than your internal drive to actually get that result.
Yes.
Right? So if you tell somebody that, hey, I'm going to do this, or I really want to do this, and I want you to, to know that, I think that drives a lot of people as well, because there's this social aspect to it that, hey, I told my friend, or I told old buddy that, I'm going to get this done. And if I don't get it done, then they're going to look at me sideways like, are you who you say you are,
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Whenever it comes to like work wise, there can be external drives that you can see and almost like reach and feel, and see a promotion at the end of the at the end of the tunnel. You see something because like, if I do this, then like there's something there, but the reward is there, right? You do things consistently because the reward is there. But now when it comes to like marriage and parenting, those results are different, right?
Why?
Because like for us, marriage is a lifetime, right? And you have to like wake up every day with the mindset that I am going to accept this person for who he or she is every single day. So the consistency of doing that. Sometimes the reward is not glamorous for 5-10 years. Right. But at the end of, we talk about this whenever, you go to a wedding and people like, if you've been married for 5 years, come on, stay on 10, 15, 20. And when it goes to like 40 or 50 years, there's not very many people that's left back, but we admire those who have survived. And they didn't survived. Yes, they have survived. They didn't last that long without a consistency of showing up every single day and being faithful and being committed to someone on a daily basis, even when you didn't like that person.
Yeah. But why is it different from external motivation, right? Because at times you have the individual, you have your spouse, right? And you are sometimes trying to do it for them.
Right. Sometimes you're trying to do it for them, but there are times, there are things, because marriage is two people. Marriage is two people coming together as one. So the marriage is a unity when, obviously you're coming together as one, but at the same time, each individual person have to make up their mind that they're going to stay committed, right? It's not like, okay, well, I'm going to work really hard to like keep you faithful and keep you, and if you don't say this to me, then I'm gonna, bounce or whatever. Right. But it's a decision every day. Like, how can I be better today? For my spouse and for me, like, what do I have to do, to make sure that I show love, that I show care, that I show, some sort of genuine decision to make sure my family and my spouse know that I care about them, you know. So I think like those are daily decisions. That's consistency that sometimes you don't get rewarded for those things.
And it's internal.
Yeah. It's not a you're not doing it to post and be like, everybody come see how good I look.
Right.
You know, but those decisions, and I think that has to happen both ways, right? In order for a marriage to last, because life happens and there's so many things. There's so many situations, frustrations, problems, arguments that can come about that you can be like, you know what, I'm not dealing with this, right? There's so many things that can come to drive you apart. But the consistency of deciding like, okay, today I'm going to show up. And those moments nobody sees. Those moments you may never get rewarded for. But it is those moments that allow you to stay on the dance floor when they say, if you're married for 40 years, if you're married for 50 years, then stay on there. Agree or no?
Yeah, no, I think so too. I agree. There's a lot that you can try to do for other people or for your spouse or whatever, but I think if it's truly going to sustain, you have to want to actually change for yourself, or you actually want to see like your internal, and it goes back to a whole bunch of different stuff that we probably won't have time to touch on right now, but it's not you saying, hey, I'm doing this because of you and I expect you to change, or our relationship to change because of what I'm doing for you to see. Mm-hmm. So I think it touches on a lot of that stuff, which is really important. When it gets down to the nitty gritty.
And one of the things that, you know, like we're talking about marriage, but now I'm going to switch it over to like parenting. You know, obviously parenting itself is a lifetime, at least minimum 18 years of these people.
Right. Yes.
Of these people living in your house, right? At least in America. But we have to make decisions now that we know are going to affect them when they get older, right? Mm-hmm. It's like disciplining them. Like you discipline them and you correct them because you know it's going to be beneficial for them in the future. Yeah. And sometimes that discipline and that correction does not happen immediately. Yeah. It's like, you know, sometimes, you know, whenever I look at our son and I'm like, oh my gosh, is he ever going to get it? You know, but you still show up every day and you still correct and you still mentor, you still teach, because you know eventually the result will come, but you don't know when that result is gonna pay off. Yeah,
and I mean, as far as like parenting overall, we know this is a whole, you know, deeper subject and conversation, but for a lot of people, that consistency or that choice to be consistent does not there, right? And children, as a result, they suffer for that, right? Or there's all kinds of things that come into play because parents, we decide not to be consistent in some of these areas, to see it all the way through, without that result. You know, I've said this before, where I've felt like having children has taught me more about love than anything else, more than books, podcasts, church, a lot of different things, because I realized that since they were born, the choice of being consistent and being there and giving them love, right? Mm-hmm. Choosing to give love to these kids, it showed me that while they cannot give me anything back, there is still this joy that, one, I'll be able to receive from that and seeing their development and their growth, but also just understanding, like, man, that's how God has loved us. Like, there's no way that we can give back anything to God, but being able to have that love and that grace throughout, it really has taught me through this relationship with the kids. And so for us to be consistent and see that, for me, I've seen the fruits of that already in those relationships. And I think about all the other areas, what it means when you are actually being consistent, and what that could do.
Yeah, absolutely. And one example that comes to my mind when it comes to like being consistent with our kids, because you know that you have to discipline them even in the moments when things you just like, you know what, just forget about it. I'm too tired. I don't want to do it. Just, you know, almost like just do whatever you want, right? You know, our daughter, she wasn't a morning person, right? And so sometimes she was just at bedtime, she will always be like, I'm not tired, and will just fight us, you know, to go to bed. And every morning she will wake up and she would just kind of have like this bad attitude because she was still sleepy and she was super grouchy. And there were moments that I would be so frustrated just because I'm like, oh my gosh, I know, like at nighttime, whenever we're trying to put her to bed, like we know what's going to come in the morning. So we're trying to prepare her, but obviously she is her own person. So she almost like fights it. And I remember like getting them ready in the morning when I have to say to myself, okay, Sophia, self-talk, like, you know, okay, Sophia, you know, she may wake up with a bad attitude, but you have to control your emotions, and you have to still be the mom to discipline and love in the same at the same time, and not just kind of like yell all the time, but show her love and kindness in this space, and you know, say, hey, I understand that you're still tired, you know, like there were moments when I just kind of wanted to, you know, just be like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to get you to go to sleep. I don't understand why, you know. But in those moments, and saying like, okay, she's 5 years old, you know, or she's 6 years old. She doesn't understand what she's
7 years old.
She's 7 years old. Yeah. So it's like the consistency of showing up and just being like, okay, it's all right, you know, it's gonna get better. I'm sad. I'm sad that you're feeling this way. I know you're tired, but you know, come, let's get ready, and then you can go and lay on the couch. But doing that over and over and over and over.
Wow. Yeah.
And there were times in those moments when I'm just like, oh my gosh, is this ever gonna get better? Is this kid gonna be a teenager with this, you know, having an attitude like this every single morning? Am I gonna have to like encourage her every single morning to, you know, to start off with a good attitude? And no matter how early we put her to bed or late, it was just this expectation, and just being consistent to show up every morning and to just kind of like walk her through that moment of, you know.
That's really good, because so you talk about, I mean, you can be trying to accomplish something, and there might not be any actual resistance to doing it other than you actually going through and showing up each day, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of things, some things are easier than others.
Right.
But in situations like that where you are being tested,
like every fiber of your being.
Yeah, you know, truly being tested, but you know there is a result, or there is something down the road that can be accomplished from this, and going through it. Like, what are the drivers that actually allow you to stay in those moments? Prayer.
Yes.
That's it.
Like prayer every day. Jesus, please help me. Like, and sometimes I would have to walk away, and I'm like, okay, Sophia, just, you know, like, just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. But like, first of all, the driver is, I didn't want my daughter to kind of grow up with this personality, right? Because it's just like, okay, nobody wants to be around somebody with a bad attitude. You know, we said that to them all the time. And so I wanted to make sure that we break her out of that. So that's one of the drivers. And another driver was just kind of like, you know, helping her to be able to control her emotions, and deciding like, hey, I am tired, but it doesn't mean that I have to have a bad attitude. You know, it's like teaching them, teaching them that. And also like knowing that eventually it will happen, but I just didn't know when that eventually will be.
Yeah.
You know, and that is something that nobody's getting, you're not getting rewarded for
Right.
it. You know,
Yeah.
like you're not getting an applause or
Right.
or nothing.
Yeah. And even when you tell me, like, I like, man, yeah, that's great, hun. But you only get that for like that day.
That
right?
day.
And
'Cause
then
you have
you
to-
remind me another time, and I might say, yeah, great, but that is not sufficient to,
Oh my gosh.
uphold, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people can definitely understand and can
Oh, yeah.
relate to this, you know, the morning routine. But, so going into 4th grade now, you know, she wakes up now with like, you know, great attitudes, go to the bathroom, get herself ready. And, you know, and now I'm like praising, you know,
Yeah.
praising her for like, I'm so great. Thank you for having such a great attitude this morning. I love it. And she's like, you're welcome, Mom. You know, so but I didn't think, in those moments, you're like, is it ever going to happen? But now that she's getting older, you just like, oh God, thank you, Jesus. Right.
Yeah.
But it was the consistency of doing that every day and just not knowing when the result was going to come.
I love that. That's so cool because then you can now be consistent in the good stuff.
The good
right?
stuff,
You know,
yes.
you can be consistent in the praise versus consistent in the redirecting that we've had to do for so long. Beautiful.
Yeah. And another thing that I don't know if I shared this before, but we have our kids like reading the Proverbs, reading the book of Proverbs every day.
And when you started that, like when that was started, that feels almost like impossible,
Yeah.
right? It feels like, what in the world? Like they're probably going to do this maybe 2 days.
Uh-huh.
And we're gonna figure out like how to like get back on the train, you know, as a family to keep encouraging this. But it felt large.
It did. It absolutely did. And now we can see that it's like they've taken it on for themselves now.
Completely. And in fact, I remember our daughter saying to me maybe like 3 days ago, she was like, Daddy, I'm on my 134th Psalm.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
And she decided that for herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the reasons why I love the idea of, you know, them reading the Proverbs. Whenever we started this, our daughter could read, but our son couldn't. Right. And there were times when, you know, we'll ask him to do it. And I knew he wasn't reading it, but he would
Just go through.
2
Done.
minutes later, he's finished before our daughter. You're just like, dude, I know you didn't read it. But I didn't get onto him too much because what I was wanting to develop in him or in them is the idea of opening the Bible for themselves and reading it for themselves. Like that habit of practicing opening the Bible and reading the Bible. We've heard stories of, you know, people who grew up in the church, their parents grew in the church,
Yeah.
but they've never read the Bible.
Yeah.
Like they don't know for themselves what the Bible actually says, and so I wanted to make sure that our kids don't have that story. Like I wanted to make sure that they know what the Bible says for themselves, and so in implementing that, we wanted to make sure that we can prove that they're reading, and they had to write down a proverb
Yeah.
from that particular
Yeah.
chapter a day.
And it's been truly one of those beautiful things in our lives where, again, you start at this improbable or this like this moment where it feels like, man, that is truly a hard ask for for someone, for a child, for ourselves. And now we see the fruits of it. You know, we see all the time, like, you know, what our daughter said to us not too long ago about being on that part where she's just now reading for herself and going further, or hearing them whenever we're doing, you know, devotionals and they're saying, oh, yeah, I know that scripture. That's Psalm such and such, or that's Proverbs this and this. And then even diving deeper into like, what does this mean? Or asking us these questions that, you know, without that practice, it would not have existed. And so we're seeing and reaping the fruits from all of that now that just it started what felt like a long time ago, but truly hasn't been that long.
Maybe a couple of years.
Maybe a couple of years, but it now it feels like it's shorter because it's actually working.
Yeah.
Right?
And when we first started this, we talk about consistency here. It wasn't like, oh yes, let me go pick up my Bible.
Yeah.
It was like, oh mom, the Bible is so boring. Why we gotta read this? Like I rather watch TV, you know. And so it was just kind of like every day, hey, just go pick it up. And it's like coaxing them like, okay, 10 minutes, go read it for 5 minutes and just do this first so you can go do what you want to do, and you know, whatever it would take just to develop that consistency on a daily basis, because the idea here is for them when they leave our home as an adult, for them to have already developed this habit, you know, of opening the Bible.
Yeah, and you know, we share this with you as not to say, hey, you know, look at what we're doing, but truly, you know, there some of these things some of them are experiments. Some of these are hopes that we had when we were growing up. Some of these are hopes that we had coming into our marriage, that we said, okay, these are the things that we want to do as a family, and can we actually move towards that, and how do we take the practice to actually implementing that? And so that's one of the things, you know, we're seeing fruit to. But we've also implemented some things over the years, over the 11 years that we've been married, that has truly helped us. Truly, I believe that if it weren't for these things, it would just be completely different, right? We've our TV. Or even like media consumption, that is an intentional thing that I started now years ago, right? And it has completely, it's a huge part of how we actually operate, and it doesn't feel like even anything is missing, right?
Yeah. And then you want to elaborate on the TV part?
So yeah, I mean, as far as like, we really don't usually watch TV throughout the week, unless there's like something,
a game or something
going on that we really want to tune into, or a special event. But yeah, throughout the week we don't watch TV, or we're not, you know, on socials and so forth. And then on the weekend we can get into that. And so that has been tremendous, not only for us in realizing, oh man, how much time do we actually get back towards building and doing the things that we've called, or being intentional with our family. And then there is what else? The devotionals, we've been doing that with the kids for, feels like since they were born.
Yeah.
Right. And that has so many beautiful stories throughout the years in that.
Well, the devotionals are helpful in multiple ways. Obviously, you're teaching them about a story from the Bible, and they're learning about God, but it also gives them, there's a story behind it. So they hear you reading, right? And they are learning new words. They're hearing new words. They are learning to interpret things. They're learning to ask questions. They're learning to listen. They're learning to understand, like, what other people are going through. So I think, like, at nighttime, which was when we do a devotional, it's a great debrief, you know, from their day, and to just kind of get them ready for a peaceful night. And there are times when we're like, okay, you know, like, you pray, and they're like, no, we don't want to pray. And it's just like, God doesn't hear me. And you just like, okay, well, you know, just say one thing, you know. But all that stemmed from the devotional at nighttime, and having that little space of time. And it's nothing, we just picked up a devotional from the store. It's nothing special or unique, or, you know, a particular book that you have to do. It's just like, hey, we're going to read a book from the library, and then after that, we're going to do a devotional. Yeah. And so it just kind of gets them locked in. It gives them a desire to, like, hear more words, like I said, and learn to read, and learn to love the idea of listen to somebody, tell a story. And it does a lot of things for their development, more than we have imagined it to do.
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about other areas. Dinner, right? Mm-hmm. Eating together. We have dinner each night together. That's been something that, and we at first we didn't do that, and then grew into that, and that's been beautiful.
And that's something that people have to work on, or we have to work on to be consistent with that.
Right. Yeah. For you and I, being loving to each other.
Oh, yay.
Consistently. that's habit as well. Right. So, I mean, there are so many things that we're actually now seeing the fruits of, that we can truly be grateful for, like truly say to y'all, hey, this works, right? If you're maybe early into your marriage and you're wondering, like, is this work, or this thing that I'm trying to say, is this actually going to do something for us? Can it actually pay off? We want to encourage you. We want to say,
absolutely.
Go for it and do it one day at a time.
One day at a time. And, it's not something that may be where you're going to see the results right away. You may have to force yourself or your family to, like, hey, if you want to do dinner together, you're like, hey, turn off the TV. We're going to do this. And there may be some resistance at first, or whatever it is that you want to implement. It doesn't always go over well right away, but you just know that it's something that's going to be beneficial later if you are consistent with doing it. Those moments when you just like, you know what, it's just easier. It's just easier to do it this way. And, for our dinner, we, like you said, we sit at a table during the week, but on Fridays it's like, all right, it's movie night, and we sit around the TV watching a movie, and we eat dinner at that time. So it's like we're not eliminating forever, having dinner around the TV, but it's just kind of like, this is what we do on this night and these days, and it's just make it consistent with them. And I feel like sometimes kids needs discipline and structure and order in knowing like what's happening, and I think that has worked out really well for our kids too.
Well, yeah,
to have that.
Saying this now kind of reminds me of something a while back. Early in our marriage, I remember our mentor sharing some words with me and just asking about, like, what is our routine at night? And, automatically I started thinking about, and I think we even had some conversation, and it was like, oh, we're going to be routine about this or routine about that. And that just sounds drag. It just sounds like, oh, man, that is not fun. That is not cool. That is not spontaneous.
Yeah, spontaneous.
Right?
Like, that's what every marriage needs to be,
quote,
you
need to be spontaneous. And really just talking to that mentor, just understand, like, the importance of routine in order to, like, truly be intentional about in the areas where you want to be intentional. And if you don't have that structure, right, or even the discipline within yourself or within your family in order to be consistent, then all of us, we're just like, because there's so many distractions, because there's so many different things that we can do, we're just floating, right? We're just going from side and just allowing the world to navigate how we actually live.
Yeah.
And so unless you set up routines through consistency, right, through doing what is hard to do at times, you'll never realize, like, how much more we are actually capable of as a family, as a unit, as individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that. It's almost like if you don't plant the right seeds, all sorts of weeds are going to grow up, things that you don't want to happen, right?
Yeah.
The results in 5 years from now, you're going to look back and you're going to like, what in the world happened to me? What happened to my family? So you have to be consistent with planting the right fruits.
Exactly. Because you can be consistent in the wrong ways,
ways.
Without even knowing, basically.
Yeah.
Right? Choosing to, like, float, choosing not to be intentional about the actions that you're taking each day, choosing not to have good habits. That in itself it's the reverse. You're choosing to be consistent in all the wrong habits a lot of times.
Yes. So consistency. If you are not routine with building it, something else is going to grow, and it's usually the things that you don't want.
Yeah.
So being mindful that consistency is not a one big moment type of thing, but it's small steps. It's faithful steps taken over and over again, showing up daily when nobody's watching, even when you're not motivated to go on. Consistency showing up, doing the things because you know it's going to pay off. So whenever you are thinking and discouraged, ask yourself, what can I commit to today and keep showing up with it tomorrow, because it's going to benefit me in the future. Yeah. So your future is hidden in your daily disciplines, the things that you do on a daily basis. Daily disciplines. Like if you want to lose 20 pounds, you're not just going to show up one day, right? Go to the gym and be like, I'm losing 20 pounds today. Yeah. No, but it's like showing up to the gym daily for the next 6 months, right? For the next year, in order to get that, and to get that out. And that's with anything that you do. If you want your kids to be whatever, strong readers, right? And it's like, all right, I'm going to sit with you for 10 minutes today and listen to you read. You're going to read out loud to me, those kind of daily practices that you don't get the glamour for those things. You don't get all the applause, all the likes and all those things for that. But you will get it when your child is like reading, a proficiency at a 7th grade level, when they're in, 3rd grade or 4th grade. It's just kind of, you get the reward for that. But it's those daily habits that will reward you at the end. So be consistent today, show up. It will benefit you. It will pay off later. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again for joining this session of Relationships and Reason. We're truly grateful for your ears and for your time that you take to listen and share. So please, connect with other folks, have this discussion. We want to hear from you. Yes, until next time. Thanks.